big fan of true crime documentaries. Making a Murderer, The Staircase, Wormwood, I love all that stuff. And for the longest time, I wondered if it was normal to be so interested in crime scenes and serial killers. But then I realized that there's actually entire TV channels dedicated to these kinds of shows, and according to Netflix numbers, true crime is more popular than ever. But why? What's so captivating about such violent and disturbing content? I think that it comes down to the fact that we are fascinated by evil and by the darkness that potentially lives in each of us. That very thought alone is incredibly scary, but also deeply intriguing because we want answers to things we don't understand, no matter how dangerous it is. And media allows us to tap into that darkness in the comfort of our living room. And scary video games are no different. On one hand, you have your typical roller coaster type horror that is more interested in providing scares and thrills, but on the other, you have truly thought-provoking titles that are so strange and disturbing that they stick with you for weeks, months, and sometimes years. And today we're gonna take a look at 7 games that got under my skin for all sorts of reasons. Disturbing themes, creepy imagery, or even unsettling design choices. Games that made me question my sanity, my humanity, or even reality itself. So grab some popcorn, turn your lights off, and enjoy. Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth was my first introduction to the world of H.P. Lovecraft, a world defined by a fear of the unknown, cosmic dread, forbidden knowledge, and ancient godlike entities. In this twisted, extended universe, the characters come face to face with the limits of humans' understanding of the dark and infinite cosmos. In those stories, everyone who gets too close to the truth go mad, and usually end up committing suicide or being locked up in an insane asylum. And that's actually how the game starts, with a flash forward showing the main character killing himself as he's scribbling his final words. Unlike what the title might suggest, this game isn't based on Lovecraft's short story of the same name. This is a loose adaptation of Shadow over Innsmouth with some elements from The Shadow Out of Time and other bits of general Lovecraft mythology. You play as Jack Walters, a detective hired to investigate the disappearance of a young man in the small, isolated fishing town of Innsmouth. This is a very unusual place. Every shop seems to be shut down, all of its people have a very fishy look, and someone or something is seemingly stalking your every move from the rooftops. Explore the dark alleyways, interrogate the few citizens who want to talk to you, and uncover a sinister conspiracy involving the strange cult of Dagon as you try to unravel every piece of this truly bizarre mystery. But as you do all this, you must also try to not go completely insane. Because every single time you see something disturbing, whether it's a creature or a dead body, you must keep your eyes away from it if you don't want to lose your sanity, which can lead to the main character actually killing himself on screen from a first-person perspective. But the main problem is that each and every single one of us will want to look at the disturbing images, despite the potential risks, and that's just part of our natural curiosity towards the unknown. In my opinion, this is one of the best adaptations of Lovecraft. It just nails the very specific kind of horror he was a master of. This isn't the type of game that overly relies on jump scares. Instead, Dark Corners of the Earth paints a very ominous atmosphere, one that is deeply rooted in the fear and awe we feel when confronted by something beyond our comprehension. H.P. Lovecraft's influence can be observed in games that aren't even direct adaptations of his work. Games like Bloodborne, Darkest Dungeon, and a bunch of others. But recently I played a small indie title that perfectly encapsulates what it means to be Lovecraftian. I'm talking about No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. This is a slow-burn, retro horror game in which you arrive at an old lighthouse located on a small island near the coast of the United States. After the previous keeper has gone missing, you need to take over his duties and watch after the light. Perform mundane tasks as you try to uncover what happened to the other keeper. Inspired by the PlayStation 1 era of horror games, No One Lives Under the Lighthouse feels like something you shouldn't be playing, the kind of game that would have attracted rumors of being cursed during the 90s. It's a very murky and creepy looking title that explores a fear that everyone can relate to, which is the fear of being watched. To me, there's nothing scarier than realizing that you are not alone when you thought you were, and I truly cannot imagine a more terrifying scenario than being stuck on a remote island while being watched from the shadows. Being a lighthouse keeper has always struck me as one of the most terrifying jobs in the world. From the loneliness, the isolation, to the hypnotic sound of waves crashing on rocks, it's as if madness was simply impossible to avoid. The amount of spooky stories, urban legends, and folk tales about lighthouse keepers slowly going insane is a testament to this unforgiving reality. And if you want to see how that feels like, this is the game for you. The next two games I want to talk about share one thing in common. They both feature the idea of breaking the fourth wall. This is a convention that comes from theater in which an invisible wall separates the actors from the audience. While the audience can see through this wall, the convention assumes that the actors cannot. In the case of modern forms of entertainment like cinema, television, or video games, the fourth wall is actually the screen itself. And when the plays, the movies, or the games start to acknowledge the audience or the player, that's what we call breaking the fourth wall. And when you mix this with horror games, this can be quite a spooky experience, and even straight up disturbing in some cases. Because usually when you're playing a game, you're doing so in the comfort of your living room. You might feel scared, but you will also feel safe, because that's the point of the fourth wall. It creates a seemingly indestructible comfort zone. That is, until it breaks. There are mainly two ways that games will break the fourth wall. They will either influence the real world in small ways, like how eternal darkness appears to delete your save files or mess with the volume on your TV, or they will feature a game within a game, as if you were playing someone playing a video game. And that's the case with two of my favorite examples. Stories Untold, more specifically its first episode, and Duck Season, a game that went viral a couple of years ago that you maybe never played because it was a VR exclusive, but now you can actually play it without a VR headset. Let's start with Stories Untold. In that game, you are sitting in front of a computer to play an old-school text-adventure game called The House Abandoned. Using a fictional computer, you must give directions to the main character as he explores his family's holiday home. Eventually, you find your old bedroom, your computer, and a copy of The House Abandoned. And then, this moment happens. The room becomes a nightmarish version of itself, and the game reboots, as if you had unlocked a secret part of the game that wasn't supposed to be unlocked. But the really scary stuff starts when the actions inside the text adventure are mirrored in real life, as sounds of the player in the game can be heard around the house. And eventually you'll become paranoid and start to wonder, if this game can spill into that game, what if it could also spill into the real world? Of course, this is a completely irrational fear, but your brain will struggle to lock these thoughts away while playing this game. But Duck Season goes even a step further in how the fictional reality gets affected by the game within it. This game puts you in the shoes of a kid who just got his hands on a brand new cartridge for his home console, a game similar to Duck Hunt featuring a very strange mascot. And much like Stories Untold, it's when the game starts to affect the quote-unquote real world that it takes a truly disturbing turn. You start seeing creepy ads, reports of strange disappearances, and other spooky occurrences. As you play, it becomes more and more apparent that the cartridge is somehow cursed and that the mascot in the game actually wants you dead and is roaming around your house in the real world, leading to some of the most disturbing moments I've ever seen in a video game, but also the biggest goosebumps I've ever had. When I say deck building roguelike, you don't immediately picture a horror game, right? Well, Inscryption, the latest game by the creator of Pony Island, another creepy game known for breaking the fourth wall, is exactly that. Inscryption is a creepy card-based odyssey that blends deck building roguelike elements with escape room style puzzles and psychological horror. This is by far the most disturbing card game you will ever play, but it's also the most difficult game to describe in this list. But if I had to summarize what playing Inscryption feels like, I'd say picture being locked in a cabin with the devil while being forced to play the most twisted card game of all time. But even then, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because Inscryption is a game full of surprises, mind-melting twists, and weird but extremely fascinating design choices. This game is all about sacrifice. You need to make blood sacrifices to summon cards, and you can even pull one of your teeth out to deal extra damage to the opponent. But the biggest sacrifice comes when you lose the game, because then you get murdered. At that point, you are given the chance to make a death card, which is a unique card that contains your soul. Then the next victim you'll play will be able to use all of the cards containing the souls of the previous victims to finally break this vicious cycle. This game just recently came out, so I don't want to spoil too much, but just note that you ain't seen nothing yet. Most of you are most likely familiar with this highly controversial game, but there was simply no way for me to talk about disturbing games without talking about Manhunt. Developed by Rockstar and released in 2003, Manhunt takes place in the twisted world of snuff movies. If you don't know what this is, it's basically when an actual murder is committed on camera for it to be sold as entertainment. Usually snuff comes with the idea that there's an underground community who sells, exchanges, and produces this type of content for financial gain. And here we're not talking about accidents caught on tape or war executions. We're talking about planned homicides with the sole purpose of entertaining. Although some people relegate snuff to urban legends, the mere thought of its potential existence is incredibly disturbing. Which is why Manhunt attracted every possible criticism when it first came out. In that game, you play as a death row inmate who's being forced to participate in the creation of a series of snuff movies, and the more gruesome your kills are, the bigger the reward. Because of its incredibly violent nature, the game has been at the center of many controversies, which isn't really new for its developers. But even within the company, some employees were really uncomfortable while working on it. The game was eventually banned in a lot of countries and was even linked to a murder. Some really dark stuff. But Manhunt also gained a pretty strong cult following over the years and even received a sequel in 2007. If you have a strong stomach, give it a try. Rule of Rose is a psychological horror game that came out in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. And it's also very strange. Much like Manhunt, this game was an incredibly controversial release, but for very different reasons. You play as Jennifer, a 19-year-old young woman who gets abducted by a ragtag mob of orphan children who call themselves the Red Crayon Aristocrat Club. They take Jennifer into a large zeppelin where she is forced to find valuable gifts and offerings to stay alive while also piecing together forgotten memories of her traumatic past. Rule of Rose tackles some very heavy themes that could be considered taboo for video games, especially at the time of its release. We're talking animal cruelty, bullying, mental disorders, death, addiction, suicide, grief, and even cannibalism. And if you thought this was bad, the game also has sexual themes and implied rape. And when you mix all of this with children, you get a final product that is problematic, to say the least. The game was in fact the subject of a moral panic in Europe before release. Rumors started to rise stating that the game featured sexual violence towards children, obscene cruelty, and in-game sadomasochism. These allegations ended up being untrue. Still, the game was banned in a bunch of countries, and various outlets continued to spread these rumors. Which is very unfortunate in my opinion because Rule of Rose doesn't rely on these ideas for simple shock value. The harsh topics are never glamorized and the game always makes a point out of them. It's like a really disturbing fairy tale that explores the mysterious and misunderstood nature of children in a very dark context. Even though this game has plenty of issues from a gameplay perspective, it remains a very unique, unsettling, and thought-provoking experience that any fan of the genre should try at least once. Thank you guys for watching my Halloween special. This was a very long video to make, from the research to the editing, but I'm really happy with the final result. I hope you liked it and that you found at least one game or two you'll want to try out this Halloween. If you enjoy what I do, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. That's pretty much it. Enjoy the rest of the spooky season and I'll see you guys later.